Okay, now I'm curious. Can I get like the oldest newspaper that you guys have, and we can look at that right now? 1891.
I watch Hello Okanagan from Vernon.
Hey Okanaganers, welcome to another episode of Hello Okanagan. We're in Vernon because, David, what are we doing?
Well, guys, we are going to do a deep dive into history of Vernon. And if you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please make sure you do that. It really helps us out to continue giving you guys all this content. So, Peter, I know that you're old, but we're not going into that kind of history. We're going even further back.
Even further back.
Even further back. So let's head into the museum and check out what they have to offer.
This is like our own expedition unknown. Let's go!
David, welcome.
Steve, thank you so much.
Happy Friday. Thanks for bringing the sunshine.
Thank you. Let's check out the Vernon. All right, so we're here with Steve Jenkins of the Vernon Museum. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, thank you guys for coming out. It's great to have you, and appreciate you coming and spending some time with us.
Amazing. Well, I personally have gotten into history a lot, and I know that there is a lot of history, especially in the Okanagan, that maybe a lot of people may not know about. So I'm really excited to dive into some of it today.
Yeah, well, the cool thing about the Vernon Museum is that we've got, items here, fossils that are literally millions of years old. But our majority of our history goes back about 250 years ago when the original settlers came to the region. And that's where our story begins. And that's where, we're really excited to have people come down and just learn, be curious about the history of Vernon and the larger Vernon area.
Amazing. If you had to break down the kind of theme, obviously most museums around the world, if you go, they've got some kind of theme. What would be Vernon's theme then based on that?
Well, we've tried to do a really good job of representing all of the different cultures. So, in the Vernon Museum, we have a significant portion that's dedicated to Indigenous and First Nations history. We have Chinese history based on the early days of the Chinese immigrants and their influence in Vernon, as well as a huge focus on agriculture and the number of descendants that came to Vernon to really start agriculture, irrigation, all of that work that has made Vernon such a popular, place for production of food and, obviously a destination for people to come in and buy fruit in the summertime.
Amazing. Well, let's head on in and check some of it out then. Now, the history and the Vernon Museum itself, how old is the museum?
So the museum started as a donation from a gentleman who had a significant taxidermy collection, and upon his death, it was his wish to say, I would like all of my taxidermy to actually be the formation of a Vernon Museum. So it was donated to a school, and in a back classroom, his taxidermy was on display for the public. And that was really the basis of the Vernon Museum back in the 1950s. And then from there, it's evolved to where we are today. We're 50 years in this building, and with that, it's evolved. And, our next journey, which is super exciting for us, is to actually move into the new Vernon, Greater Vernon Cultural Center, which is going to be our marquee building, and we'll be joint tenants in that facility with Vernon Public Art Gallery. So super exciting over the next 24 months to be a part of building a new museum. This is a throwback to, days gone by up to 100, 125 years ago. And this would have been a replica of, what shopping in original Vernon would have been. And we've got a number of things here. We've got a pharmacy, we've got a printing press, we've got, the Cameron General Store. And people love to come here and just understand, what it would have been like, 100 years ago to be a consumer in Vernon. And this is a really fun place. We get lots of favorable, comments on this section.
Have you used actual brands from today and kind of rebranded them to like the style of 100 years ago then?
Yeah, well, for example, with our original printing press that came to us from Wayside, this is actually a phenomenal piece of history that is still in use today. And in many cases, we have classes that come in or guests that come in, and we can actually fire up the original printing press and give them a takeaway that talks about their visit, the day it was, and all of that. So it's just, part of the fun that we have at the museum.
It's really cool.
This is our pharmacy, and this is really fun for us as well. And as part of our move to the new cultural center, we're actually going through the process of making sure that what we have in the pharmacy is suitable for movement, and things like arsenic and cyanide that were, mercury that were, topical, products, 100 years ago, obviously aren't in today's world. So we're being very mindful to make sure that what we're going to move is safe to do so.
Yeah, no doubt. That's very cool.
And here there's all kinds of things that we have that include some of our archaeological items, fossils and different formations of rock. Then we get into a bit of a natural history section, all kinds of information on animals, all kinds of information on insects, and some of the habits of the animals that populate this area. So David, Peter, this is one of our most popular exhibits, and this is our First Nations Indigenous Learning Circle. And with that, we've got all kinds of exhibits here that are a throwback to much of our First Nations and Indigenous culture that we have in this area. And this is one that, regardless of, school kids or, people, residents of Vernon or guests, this is an area where we find they spend a tremendous amount of time just learning about our Indigenous roots. Yeah, and David, this is, a throwback to, some of the early days in Vernon as well, and this gets into some of the mechanization of the Industrial Revolution and all kinds of great information here. This area features a ton of history. It also features the original clock that was in the post office and all kinds of great information from our past.
So we're here with Gwyneth, the archives manager here at the Vernon Museum, and we're gonna go deep into the archives and hopefully show you guys some stuff that maybe not everyone gets to see when they stop by at the museum here.
This is our vault, which is fireproof and climate controlled. So we keep a lot of the more original materials in here. We saw the newspapers out there, so we keep the newer newspapers in that portion, which is not climate controlled. And then we keep the really old newspapers in the back, which we can go take a look at.
That's the year my parents are born. 67. I'm so scared.
If David drops this...
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm dead.
Don't touch it.
Yeah, so the newspapers come in these big bound volumes. The older ones anyways. The newer ones are put into the boxes, kind of like you would expect with the Morning Star. But this is how they looked back in 67.
Oh my goodness.
You have the Vernon News and, of course, the front page there. We have them digitized up until about 1945. So for those people who are looking for slightly newer than 1945, it's a little bit of a challenge because it's still in hard copy, so they have to go through it, one at a time, and it can be kind of like finding a needle in a haystack. Yeah. I mean, the nice thing with the newspapers is people go down rabbit holes and they're looking for one thing, but then they start reading a separate story and they're like, oh yeah, I remember this, and oh, I used to buy that product, and so that can be really fun for them. But a great research resource, but also, a lot of work.
Okay, now I'm curious. Can I get like the oldest newspaper that you guys have, and we can look at that right now? It's from like the 1800s?
1891, I think, or...
Of course, it's on like the most tippity top shelf. 1891. 1891.
That's right. It's older than the city of Vernon.
I was like, isn't that the year you graduated high school?
College.
Ah, yeah, that's it.
So yeah, back then the Vernon News was a exclusively farm and livestock journal. So it didn't have a lot of like social history or that stuff we would expect to see in the newspaper now.
Because Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian weren't around yet.
Too much.
There wasn't much to talk about.
And there wasn't really a lot of images, as you can see. So a lot more to do with, how the crops were doing and what was going on with the weather, because of course that was kind of the
What
purpose of
actually
life.
affected people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just think it's so cool. Like, this paper is almost 150 years old.
Yeah.
Live in Vernon.
The paper itself. Okay, should we take a look at some maps?
Sure.
I'm
yeah.
curious.
This is a fire insurance map. So these were published as a means to identify which types of materials were being used throughout the city for
year
fire
is this?
prevention. This is 1913. So this is, I think, our oldest fire insurance map. We have some more modern fire insurance maps.
So you lived in this quadrant compared to that quadrant, your insurance would be higher? Is that what you're saying?
No, it was more specifically to do with the type of material. So these different colors identify brick versus wood versus that type of thing, so that way the
So basically,
fire-
this is going to burn down, this is going to burn down, this is going to burn down.
Yeah, pretty
3 little piggies can stay in here and they'd be...
So this is what year you said?
1913. So this is Alan Brooks's field guide.
Can we mention who Alan Brooks
Yeah,
is?
for sure. So Alan
people that
Brooks was a local naturalist. He was born in India. Over time, he came to the Okanagan Valley and then Vernon, and he established a house on the commonage. And from the commonage area, he was able to create quite a diverse habitat for birds, which was his particular subject of study in terms of naturalism. And he passed away in 1946. So yeah, that smell,
Like old comic books?
there's a
old leather.
there's a sweet smell that comes off old materials, which is basically stuff breaking down.
Look at the drawings, though. Like, look how detailed these are.
So he was an artist as well. I mean,
He was an
look
artist.
at that.
Yeah, so this is from 1888.
Wow.
So
1888. So this predates the newspaper.
predates the newspaper, yeah, that's right. So he was an artist as well as a naturalist, which is, you can tell from the drawings in here.
Thank you so much, Gwyneth, for letting us in the archives and showing us all this cool stuff. I honestly, I knew there was history here, but I had no idea how in-depth it all was. And yeah, we really appreciate you showing it to us and to the viewers. Now, are these actual artifacts, or are they like replicas kind of built?
Everything that we've taken in is part of our museum collection. So this is real, and everything that we have has a story behind it. And where we get excited is the opportunity of being able to tie this back to the donor and being able to responsibly tell the story of their journey. How did they come to Vernon? What was their experience like? What were they doing in terms of occupation, and what did their family do in terms of, being active in the community? And there's so many phenomenal stories that the Vernon Museum and Archives want to share with the public. And we invite everybody to come down to just be curious about who was here, some of the stories and some of the things that they would have witnessed. It's phenomenal.
If the average person wants to come in here and kind of experience all there is here, is it just a simple walk through and kind of read about it yourself? Do you guys have staff on site that will gladly walk with people and explain some of the stuff so you get a little bit more of that in-depth kind of experience?
We're available by donations, so we invite anyone to come in, and donations are very very welcome. But we also respect the visitors' requirements in terms of if they want to just have a quiet walkabout. We're happy to do so. Part of what I enjoy the most is interacting with our visitors, and it's amazing the stories that you can hear from people. And we have people from all destinations, all points of the world. This week alone, we had people in from China, from Australia, and people that are local, school kids. We just had 2 classes come through, and it was just pandemonium in here, but it's so much fun. And that's the diversity of what we can do. If people do want to have a guided tour, our staff will make themselves available to help out and answer any questions that they have.
I say I'm new here, but I've been here 6-7 years now. But I'm still fascinated about the history of certain buildings. And Downtown Vernon Association, on their Facebook page, every Thursday they do a Throwback Thursday. And there's so much conversation on there because people remember the building that used to be there. Or the building that's there now, but what it actually looked like way back when. And there's so many stories, and I just love hearing about that. And there's so many people in Vernon that still live here that know so much. So when they see an image, it just brings back all this history, and just reading about their stories, I'm just in love with the history here.
You know, for me, it's not only the stuff, but to your point, it's the people that are behind the stories. And there's so many families that have literally have 125 years history in this area. And there are some phenomenal stories.
I want to know more about not just how you got your hands on them, most of them were donated, but who it was, what was their history, where did they come from, what was their life like living here, why did they utilize these items, how did they utilize these items?
Yeah, well, you get a kick out of, you know, what we're doing for the Vernon Winter Carnival and their game stain. So we put together some exhibits that literally pulled out of our collection. We have original board game of Clue that was from the 1950s. We have a chess set that was originally from the 1850s. And the story behind that is phenomenal. It actually came as a result of individual moving from Winnipeg, and it was gifted to them as a parting gift in 1909. And it's just like all of these things have such an incredible story.
So did you put out a call to try to find these games, or you had some in your possession already?
Yeah, well, this is part of the collection and
Okay.
the value of, you know, the last 50, 60 years where we've been, you know, responsibly intaking, you know, articles into our collection that have meaning, purpose, and ties to the greater Vernon area.
Thanks again for allowing us in here. For me, I'm really geeking out because you gave us the behind the scenes, which is awesome. And for you guys at home, it's not just for a specific demographic. All ages would love this place. So thank you. And if people want more information, where do they go?
Yeah, best way to come in is just through the front door. We'd love to see everyone come through. We have obviously our website, so vernonmuseum.ca. And that's a great spot to check out. And also want to put in a teaser for the new Greater Vernon Cultural Center. So we're about to build a new museum in partnership with the Vernon Public Art Gallery, and super excited about that. So if anyone has questions, please feel free to come down. Happy to do things face to face. But big believer that good things happen over a cup of coffee. Yeah, come on down. Coffee's on me.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, make sure you follow us on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, Hello Okanagan.
And don't forget, we're a YouTube show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And smash the like button on those videos to let us know which ones are your favorites.